All right, today we're diving into Galatians chapter 6, and we're going to do this a little differently. Think of it like a movie. We're going to walk through this ancient letter, scene by scene, creating these really vivid pictures in our minds to make sure the message, well, to make sure it sticks. You ready? Let's jump in.
Okay, let's start with a question, one I think we've all faced. What do you do when someone you really care about messes up? I mean, really messes up. They trip, they fall, they get tangled in something they shouldn't have. Your answer to that question, well, that's exactly where this whole chapter kicks off.
So our first act, our first scene is all about community. It's about that delicate dance between helping each other out and, still being responsible for ourselves. We're calling this part helping and carrying. All right, verse 1. The story opens on this path. Picture two friends just walking along, and suddenly, one of them trips hard on a root and goes down. The instruction is super clear. If you're the one still standing, you reach down and gently help your friend back up. But, and this is so important, the camera then pans down to your own feet. The scene isn't just about helping them. It's about being careful where you step so you don't trip on the very same thing. It's this incredible visual of gentle restoration, but with this built-in warning for yourself. Then we get to verse 2, and the scene gets way more intense. Now imagine it's not just a trip. That same friend is on the ground, but they're trying to lift this enormous backpack. And it's just overflowing with these heavy, jagged rocks. It's a crushing weight, something they literally cannot lift on their own. That's a burden. And the instruction? Get in there. Get your shoulder under it with them. Help them lift. And get this, it's not just a nice idea. It's called the law of Christ. Okay, so right after this call to help, verse 3 drops a major warning. Imagine a guy standing in front of a mirror, just puffing up his chest, flexing, totally admiring himself. But when you look at his reflection, it's like a ghost. It's transparent, hollow. There's nothing there. That's the picture of pride. It's the delusion of thinking, oh, I'm too strong to need help. Or even worse, I'd never fall like that. It's a total deception. So how do you fight that pride? Well, verse 4 gives us the answer. The camera pulls away from the mirror and into a quiet workshop. Picture a craftsman holding a piece she just finished. She's not looking over at someone else's work, not at all. Her eyes are just on her own creation, turning it over, examining it, feeling this deep personal satisfaction. The joy isn't about being better than someone else. It's about the quality of her own work. And this leads to something really cool in verse 5. You might be thinking, hold on, verse 2 said to carry each other's burdens, but now this verse says carry your own load. What's the deal? Well, it's all in the words used. That burden in verse 2 was like a crisis, the jagged rocks. But the load here in verse 5, think of it like a soldier's standard issue backpack. It's your own gear, your daily responsibilities. So the visual changes completely. It's not someone crushed by weight. It's a person walking upright, confidently carrying their own manageable pack. The message is just brilliant. We jump in to help with the crises, but we're all responsible for our own day-to-day stuff. Okay, that brings us to the next big scene in our movie. And this one is built around one of the most powerful ideas you'll ever hear, the law of the harvest. It's all about cause and effect. Verse 6 kicks this section off with this idea of mutual support. So picture a teacher, totally passionate, pouring everything they have into their students. But it's not just a one-way street. The visual here is a student coming up to the teacher afterwards with a whole basket of fresh fruit. It's this beautiful picture of reciprocity. When you're being enriched, you share good things back. It's a two-way investment. And that idea of investing, of planting, sets up the main event in verse 7. The camera does a dramatic zoom in, right on a hand dropping one single, tiny seed into dark, rich soil. The message here is so simple, but it's totally inescapable. God isn't mocked. You can't fool this system. Whatever you plant, that, and only that is what's going to grow. Verse 8 shows us the two paths, the two kinds of seeds you can plant. It's like a split screen. On one side, you're sowing to the flesh, just living for your own selfish impulses. And what's the harvest? A field completely choked out by thorns and weeds. It's ugly, painful, a total dead end. But on the other side of the screen, you're sowing to the Spirit. And the result? A gorgeous, golden field of wheat swaying in the breeze under a warm sun, ready for an amazing harvest. The seed you choose, it determines everything. But here's the thing about farming, right? The harvest doesn't pop up overnight. And that's exactly what verse 9 is about. Picture a farmer.
It's early morning, the sun's just coming up. He is leaning against a fence, and you can just see the exhaustion on his face. He's tired, he's weary, but he's not walking away. He's looking out at his field with this quiet determination because he knows the reward only comes in its proper season, and only if he doesn't give up. So what do we do with all this? Verse 10 gives us our marching orders. The image here is a house on a dark night, but the front door is wide open, and this warm, inviting light is just pouring out. There's someone standing in that doorway with their hand out, ready to help literally anyone who walks by. But here's the little detail. Start with the people inside the house first. The idea is to do good to everyone anytime you get the chance, but take special care of your own family of faith. And now, we've reached this final section. This is where the author, Paul, personally signs off, and you can feel the energy shift. He's about to make his final, most important point, and he needs it to hit home. This is the whole reason he wrote the letter. Verse 11 is just, it's awesome. You have to imagine Paul has probably been dictating this whole letter to someone else. But now, for the very end, he grabs the pen himself. In the mental image is him taking like a giant Sharpie and writing in huge, messy block letters. He's practically yelling on the page. He's saying, look at the size of these letters I'm writing with my own hand. You need to get this. So what's he so worked up about? Verse 12 tells us he's calling out his opponents. Picture a group of people up on a stage under a really harsh spotlight, and they're desperately trying to make everyone in the audience look and act just like them, pushing all these external rules. And why? Paul says it's because they're scared. They're afraid of being persecuted for believing in the cross alone. So they add all this extra stuff to impress people and stay out of trouble. It's all a show. And in verse 13, he goes even deeper. The people on that stage, now they're pointing at the people in the audience who followed their rules, and they're boasting about them like they're trophies they've won. Paul points out the hypocrisy. They don't even follow their own rules perfectly, but they want you to so they can brag about how many followers they have. It's all about them and their reputation. Then comes verse 14, and this is Paul's mic drop moment. The visual here is so powerful. Imagine a man standing in a room that's just packed with gold trophies, awards, every certificate of achievement you can imagine. But his back is turned to all of it. He's not even looking. Instead, he's staring out a window, and his eyes are locked on one thing, a simple wooden cross on a hill in the distance. For him, that is the only thing worth boasting about. Everything else in that room is just junk. So what's the bottom line? Verse 15 gives it to us. The scene shifts to a potter's wheel. And on the side is this old, cracked clay pot. It's basically garbage. But then the potter takes it, puts it back on the wheel, and with just water and his hands, he completely reshapes that broken mess into something new, something beautiful, something useful. That's the point. The external stuff, the labels, none of it matters. What matters is being made into a new creation. And for everyone who gets this, who walks by this new creation rule, verse 16 has a promise. Imagine a group of all different kinds of people walking together. They're on a path that is straight and clear, and there's this warm, peaceful light shining down on all of them. That's the peace and mercy you get when you stop focusing on the performance and start focusing on what's real. Verse 17 is Paul's final personal statement. The camera comes in for close-up on a man's hands, and they're not pretty. They're weathered, calloused, and covered in scars. But these aren't marks of failure. These are marks of identity. Each scar is a testament to what he's been through for his beliefs. He's basically saying, don't bother me with your petty arguments. I've got the scars that prove who I belong to. The discussion is over. And then, after all that fire and passion, he closes in verse 18. And it's not with another argument, but with grace. The final shot of our movie is simple. It's a hand being placed gently on a friend's shoulder. A warm, genuine gesture of blessing. After this incredibly intense letter, it all ends with this moment of quiet, sincere care. And that brings our journey to a close, leaving us with one really important question. Paul made it clear he bore the marks of Jesus. Those were his trophies, not the world's. So the question for you and me is pretty simple. What marks are you living for? The ones that earn applause from the crowd? Or the ones that tell the story of who you really are and what you truly believe?